You are at Lake Rant, where I rant about whatever my $10 a month plus patrons want me to rant about. You can get one of these by being one of those. This one's for Talcon, who says, rant about how directors in general get far more recognition than scriptwriters, even in original anime. One name that comes to mind is Kazuki Nakashima. This is just a problem in general with all creative work, is that the director is considered to be the figurehead of the project. It is expected that, because everything has to be checked by the director, ultimately they are responsible for everything on some level. They approved of the movie being what it is, even though that's not always true, because the director's cut exists. But they ultimately are overseeing the production. And there was a movement in the 70s of auteur directors who had big sort of names behind them, who cranked out lots of very successful movies, like Steven Spielberg, who, became like sort of notorious and were seen as these like golden boy directors. Um, Someone like what's his name? Fuck. The Shining. That one. The one whose name is Crazy Like the Movie by that nigga Stanley Kubrick, as J. Cole said. That's the way I was trying to remember his name and why it took so long. Anyway, uh, yeah, like all those guys, they get all the credit even though they worked with a team, and oftentimes they are only able to realize the vision that they have because they have people who can deliver on it. Like Quentin Tarantino, um, while I'm sure he could probably draw a pretty good storyboard of one of his movies, he writes his own scripts, he directs them. They're very clearly his movies. If you look at the different people who have done DP, who director of photography for his different films, you'll notice that there's like a stark difference between the ones that are from Inglorious Bastards onwards and the ones that were before that. It's very clear that a big element of the feel is who does he have working on it? What are they going for together? And obviously, in a case like Tarantino, who is very militantly in control of his movie, it's not that he's asking them to just deliver on exactly what's in his head, because it was created there without necessarily these people already being involved. I mean, he might have even thought about who was going to be, working on this movie while he wrote the script. But even then, that means he's deliberately writing within the limitations of these people existing and being willing to help him, being willing to work with him. So, like, it's a matter of not, don't look at the director as he gave final say to everything and therefore he's like responsible for everything. It's more like he had to craft the product around the talents of the people who he has to work with. And so, if a show really has amazing character animation, you got to thank the animation director. It's like it's not the director who made it look that way. He is the one who hired who works with this animation director because he wants that person's talent to bring his film to life. But like ultimately, when you are looking at the movie, you need to look at who did what. And yeah, in a case like Imaishi, I mean, if you look at the work that he's done without Kazuki Nakashima, it's way the fuck more unhinged. Like, he made Sex and Violence with Mach Speed and Dead Leaves and fucking, Space Patrol Luluko. And all of those are just, like, completely off the rails. And I don't even know who wrote any of those. I don't know if they were written by different people, the same people. I doubt the same people. Maybe he wrote some of them himself. I don't know. But like Nakashima has a recognizable style that is very clear in all three of the things that the two of them have done together. And it's I think he pulls a lot from his experience because he doesn't write a lot of anime, but I believe he writes a lot of like stage plays. And so I think that you can see elements of what he does in his stage writing in the anime as well. So yeah, like you definitely need to look into writers. You need to look into everybody. If you really want to talk about who does what on an anime, it's like You can say by watching everything that a creator does that, like, okay, this, and this are trademarks of this director, but you need to also say, oh, maybe this technique shows up in 3 shows that all have the same art director, but none of those techniques shows up in the shows that he didn't do with that art director. Maybe he's not responsible for it. Oh, and those techniques also come up in other shows by that art director. Oh, okay. I think we can paste it together. Like that's the level of investigation you got to go to if you really want to accredit things properly. But in the end, I think most people just use the director as a shorthand for referring to the production of something. Like they're not really thinking about specific. They're just thinking like they want somebody to thank for doing a good job or somebody to blame for doing a bad job, and that's the figurehead. Even though personally I think it makes even more sense to blame the producers because they're the ones who organize, who pay all these fucking people to work together to do this thing. They have approval. They have like a final approval, I would think, considering that they are the ones who are paying for it all, essentially, or letting the funding happen. So yeah, I mean, I think they deserve blame a lot of the time too, but whatever. That's the way it be.